Well, then here we go. Let me move that. All right. All right. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Rising Coaches DEI Alliance Women's Empowerment Series. And as Daryl mentioned, this is number 3 for us. I'm your host, Kim Hampton, Vice President of Women's Basketball. And I'm joined by my illustrious teammates, Adam Gordon, he's the co-founder and CEO of Rising Coaches, and Daryl Jacobs, he is the Executive Director, and Brian Burton is Vice President of Men's Basketball. I just wanted to go over the mission statement of what this alliance is about. So the mission statement is to use our platform as leaders in sport to impact meaningful change for racial equality in our communities and profession. And last year, I had the opportunity to ask a few coaches as it pertains to advancing your career, what are some, and these were minority coaches, what are some of the things that you feel you could actually, the question was more about how you felt, what would you feel that you needed to actually advance your career? What are some of the things that if you had the chance to ask decision makers, what would be those questions? What do you feel you're lacking to advance your career, be it in coaching or administration? And so I kind of really would love to I guess, push our conversation in that direction. How can people be prepared? Because I would really love for people to leave here and to feel like they have just some information that can really help them. I'd love for there to be some great takeaways. So with that said, I would like to introduce the panel. And I'm not the type of person that's going to sit and read a whole bio. So what I'm going to do is name the person that I am introducing and to, I guess, say their current position. So first up, we have Anita Howard, and Anita Howard is the head coach at Georgia Southern. So Anita, could you walk us through your journey to this point?
Yes. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I was going to eat my dinner on here, but I figured it would be better if I didn't have a mouthful of good food. But so I am at Georgia Southern. This is my first Division I position. And so I literally have worked my way up through the ranks. And I mean, from junior varsity to high school, AAU, an assistant at the Division II and Division I level, all the way from Division III head coach, Division II head coach, and now Division I. I've worked at PWIs and HBCUs. And so I've kind of done it all, Kim. So, and now I'm here.
All right. Okay. And next up, we have Felicia Hall Allen. Felicia Hall Allen is an attorney. She's an agent, CEO of Felicia Hall Allen and Associates.
Hello, everybody. This is Felicia Hall Allen. I am excited to be here, like Feliz Navidad. Just think happy, and everything else makes the world go round. But when you see my name, Kim, everybody says Felicia at first.
I know, and that that's because I started to call you Feedy, but
well, everybody who knows me. So for you all who don't know, everybody who knows me call Feedy, but it's a privilege to do that. So Felicia is the given name.
I know, and I'm so sorry. So forgive me.
No, you're fine. You are fine. I am really, really excited about being here. I'll tell you why. Adam Gordon is the person who helps to make all of this possible. And Adam, I just want to say that you're so ahead of your time. I appreciate your vision. And anytime I've ever called on you, you have always been available. And so even if it is an inconvenience, I'm willing to be here for you whenever you need me. I'd like to start by saying that. What a great panel to be associated with. Felicia Hall Allen and Associates. If I died tomorrow, you know what I would want everybody to say? She helped other people's dreams come true. And she lived a life where she attempted to elevate other people's dreams. That's what I'd like to be known for. I do that in a number of different ways. I have an opportunity to represent coaches, both men and women, multiple sports, as well as administrators. The NFL is probably one of my best corporate clients. I get to do some work with the NBA. Dawn Staley makes me look really good because Johnny and I do team building, and her teams is one of the teams that we're fortunate enough to work with. My passion, professional development, and we host a Step Up symposiums. A Step Up is for any coach who desires to be a lifelong learner, no matter how many years you've been in the game. We've been doing it for 13 years now. We'll be doing it again in May of 2023 in Charlotte. And then we host Next Level for those coaches that are preparing for that next level in their career. We usually ask that you have 7 or more years. Last year, we had 20 executive search firms, including rising coaches, and we had 25 athletic administrators. And then we do a head coaches executive leadership academy. So that's enough about Felicia. I can't wait to share with y'all. This is going to be so good.
Wow, Felicia. Whew. You almost should add pastor to that, because I was like, amen, yes. Oh my goodness, you are doing a lot. And I'm just so proud of you, because I'm here at Nike now, and that's where we first met, because you were at Nike as well. And so I thank you for all that you did while you were with Nike when the WNBA was established. So you didn't add that part, but yes, you've done so much for us. Yes.
Kim, can I chime in too? Because I am who I am today because Felicia saw something in me long time ago when no one wasn't paying me any attention. And so shout out to you, because you are inspiring and promoting and elevating us. So thank you.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, next up we have Gigi Assi. Now, please correct me, because I've already made one mistake. So if I make another mistake, Gigi, I hope that's how you pronounce your name, your last name. But anyway, Gigi is an associate for Renaissance Search and Consulting. Gigi. Oh, Gigi. I noticed that she was saying that.
My apologies. Can you guys hear me?
Now.
I have like spotty service. Can you hear me now? Hi,
Yes.
everyone. My name is Gigi. I am an associate at Renaissance Search and Consulting. I've been there for I just finished my 1 year about a month ago. So I've been at RSC for about a year now. And, it's been really great. I've met so many just fantastic people within the sports world. RSC also does work with corporate accounts, so we don't just do athletics. So I've met some really just inspirational, amazing people throughout my journey. But within athletics, I've been so happy to work with several different universities, lots of athletic directors. I'm now at Women Leaders for the first time. This is my first time attending. And I attended NACDA for the first time in June, and that also was just a surreal experience. So I'm very honored to be here on this panel. I'm very honored to be at RSC, and I'm even more honored to be around such amazing people and to get to know all of you.
Thank you, Gigi. Thank you. And last but not least, we have Ed Kull. Ed is the Director of Athletics at Fordham University. Welcome, Ed.
Thank you very much, Kim. It's an honor to be with these great panelists. It's an honor to be with all of you. I had the very kind opportunity to connect with Daryl a couple of years ago, and I was just kind of blown away by his passion, his leadership, his vision. So he and I have always stayed connected. And I've been AD at Fordham University in the Bronx, New York now for almost 2 years. It's been it's home for me, born in Brooklyn, raised in Queens, and then always been in New York City. So I've been lucky to stay close to home. After being a student athlete, like I'm sure most of you were, failed professional baseball career, kind of fell in love with college athletics and always had the dream and desire to be an AD, the passion to work with young people and young adults and develop them to the leaders that we all know, such a special skill and special trait and such a rewarding career for all of us. And I'm kind of a non-traditional AD though. I did 7 years at Coca-Cola and vitamin water, sports entertainment marketing, so very helpful entrepreneur with vitamin water, blessed to kind of see different organizations, different culture and environments, and what was successful in terms of building and creating them. I did a little bit of a Madison Square Garden early in my career, the New York Mets early in my career, but I also did do 10 years at St. John's University, Vice President of Development, Vice President of Athletics there, and always got drawn back to campus, always got drawn back to the beauty and the energy and enthusiasm of young people and what college athletics is all about. So I'm honored to be here. I guess, fortunately or unfortunately, I've had to do a few head coaching searches the last couple of years. As I'll have another one shortly here for women's basketball. So not only I'm honored to share any of my thoughts and visions, but to really steal some of yours and continue to get knowledge and get some of your opinions, because as you know, it's a changing landscape, and it really is an important one in terms of how we view and look at our hiring, our building a cultures and environment, and truly establishing, really organizations that everybody feels shared ownership with and is empowered to make decisions. So I feel like I'm a change agent in this. The industry continues to change. I know we'll talk a lot about that tonight, whether it's NIL, transfer portal, social, political, but the ability to really communicate strongly with our student athletes is more important than ever. And that's not lip service. So I'm truly honored to be with all of you. And I'm excited to end the day this way. This is a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for introducing yourselves, and wow, pretty blown away for everything that you're doing. You're all change agents. So we're going to jump right into the questions, but I would also like to let everyone know who's listening in, if you have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat and let us know if you would like to ask the question yourself, or if you would like for us to ask the question for you. So the first question is going to be geared to Gigi and Ed. Can you list some things that coaches could do to get on the radar of athletic directors or search firms?
Gigi, please, you go first.
Sure, I can go first. Ironically enough, too, because I am at a conference, this is a perfect opportunity to talk about those opportunities. One thing I noticed at NACTA that really made a difference, and just from a recruiting standpoint, I recognize faces that I see at conferences, and it's nice when I run into them again at another conference, and it reminds me, those conversations that I had with them. If it's a head coach who's looking to switch divisions or go to a bigger conference, say I have a conversation with them at NACTA, and then I see them again at Women Leaders, and then I see them another time at a different conference, but I do have a position that opens up for them. They'll be the first ones to be on my mind because I have those interpersonal connections with those people. Your credentials will always speak for themselves. Great coaches are everywhere, and each coach has amazing years of experience and, have worked at great schools and, great programs, but the credentials only get you so far. When you're applying for a school or a program, it has to be the right fit. So those interpersonal relationships are what really help a coach stand out to us, because when we work closely with specific organizations or schools, we know the team culture, we know the staffing culture. And when we have those interpersonal connections with other coaches that we've met before, we're able to remember them, identify them, and say, hey, I think this coach would be an excellent fit for this school because I've talked to this person. I think that their morals and their goals align well with what the school is looking for. So I would say, one thing to really help yourself stand out is, if you can, with the resources, if you have them, to attend as many conferences or networking events. For example, today at Women Leaders, they did a speed dating mock interview where we met with a bunch of different candidates. It was a 15-minute interview, and we met with 10 to 15 different people in the span of about an hour and a half. And it was great because I got resumes and I got business cards to take home with me. And now I have these people's faces in my head that I will remember, and the conversations we had. And I won't lie, some people really did stick out to me. And I've kept them in mind. And also when I was at NACTA, we did the same thing with a speed dating interview style. And there are some basketball coaches I met that I still think about to this day. And I have them in mind for when I have those positions open up for them. I still have their resumes and their business cards with me, so that when it's time for the right school or right program, I can reach out to them and say, hey, I have this position open for you.
Awesome. Thank you. Ed?
Yes, Gigi, great answer and great insights in terms of your process. And obviously you work with a lot of schools and athletic directors and universities and colleges. So that's important and valuable. I think we all know the information is out there. We get a lot of data and information, whether you are an active head coach, whether you are a former head coach, whether you are a high rising assistant or associate head coach, and championship teams, winning teams, you're a strong recruiter, X and O's guru, or whatever kind of the skills or that you are being identified with. And that information obviously travels well, and that data is shared often. We do a lot of the analytical stuff, and I know the search firms like Gigi and Adam do a lot of that as well. But honestly, for me, it's kind of trying to identify what those differentiating skills are. And it kind of starts a little bit with, that kind of that, I call it that proof of passion. I think all of us and all of you coaches, whether you work in college administration or you're a coach or a staff member, why we all got started in this is a lot more than dollars, right? And trying to make the big contract or trying to make big money in college athletics. I think at the end of the day, when you break down the amount of hours, as Anita, I know, is going to shake her head in a moment, she's there early in the morning, she's going to be there late tonight. And if she broke down how much she's getting paid per hour, it wouldn't feel so good. So it's truly the love and the passion of this career industry and the impact she has on the young women she's coaching. And I think, getting an idea of how we've overcome some adversity, and I don't mean necessarily just personal or how the severity of that is, but getting passed over for a job, taking a volunteer role. Anita talked about her high school jobs prior to getting her first Division I jobs. I love kind of getting a feel of the adversity piece, the willingness, the sacrifice, the chip on the shoulder piece. I talk a lot about attitude over skills. I think it's easy to identify and evaluate kind of your coaching skills from obviously your resume, but what are those other differentiating pieces? I always talk about those coaches that are sleeping on their couch because they love what they do and they're watching video till they fall asleep in their office. So trying to identify that. Communication skills are just so important, more than ever. How do you communicate with our student athletes, with young women and men, but also myself? How do you handle the administrative duties? How do you take on responsibility? Having that clear vision, have a true strategic plan of how you're going to, actually take on and achieve the goals that you're going to talk about, not just giving lip service of what you think an AD or wants to hear. And the common question, I think, for a lot of you is, and you're going to get this in every interview, I promise, and Gigi and Adam know this, is how do you build your staff? So it's not just a matter of hearing more great resumes from great schools or great programs or great recruiters or great relationship people, but being honest about maybe not weaknesses, but where you don't have strengths. And I love to see that vulnerability. So I'm hiring these people on my staff because, Ed, I'm not good at X, Y, and Z. I'm not strong here. Because I don't think finding a head coach that could do it all, I don't think that's actually possible. So being honest about that, being vulnerable, I think to me is really important in the process. And I think it would do all of the head coaches or inspiring head coaches a huge service to kind of take that approach.
Wow, thank you. I'm chuckling to myself because the next question kind of alludes to that, and you've answered it. But the next question is directed to Anita and Felicia. The question is how can coaches better prepare themselves to advance their careers? We know that coaches, it's tough. It's a lot. It's a big job and you have to manage a lot. But how can you prepare? Like, what are some of the things that you can do that can help, just help you advance your career? And Ed, you named a ton of things, but we would like to hear that from Anita and Felicia from their own experiences as well. Anita, please.
Sure. I was going to definitely give the floor to our queen. But so when I first hear that question, I think about just being who you are. Before everyone got on the call, we talked about kind of just being authentic. And so I've been blessed to just be great wherever I am. And then being called up. And so I think a lot of times coaches always are looking for their next opportunity or job or trying to get in someone's face to, tell them, their resume, but the work is the work. We tell our players that all the time. Work is the work. And so if you're doing a darn good job where you are, people are going to see it. People are going to talk about it. Kind of like my story, I've literally done everything, and I never really was worried about my next step. I was just worried about raising the profile of the program that I took over. And I've taken over bottom feeder programs that have been at the bottom. And so, they're blank canvases for myself. And so I've always said, how can I make, when I was at Division III, how can we do things like Division II? When I'm at Division II, how can we do things like the Division I? Now in Division I, how can I do things like Power 5? And if I'm ever able to be Power 5, then how can I do things like the pros do it? And so I'm always trying to raise the profile of the program. And then you'll meet great people along the way. Like I said early on the call, Kim, Felicia, when I was at an HBCU that no one probably knew about, we end up being ranked number 4 in the country, Livingstone College out of Salisbury, North Carolina. We went undefeated, went 24-0 or whatever, something like that. Felicia saw me, you know, when nobody else did. And so it's having a conversation with someone like her that, you know, it was literally, I think, in a hotel lobby. It wasn't some big conference or anything like that. And we had a conversation. And so it's networking, but it's genuine networking. It is making sure that people are talking about you in rooms that you're not even in. And it's not because you're looking for something. It's because you put in the work and you've done what you need. And so when you talk about having 2 feet in, which all coaches talk to their players about, being where you are, stop worrying about transferring or I'm not playing, just be where you are and put the work in. And then you'll get called up. God will bless you with your blessings.
Wow, that is awesome. That is so powerful. And it's so true. I mean, I just find that even me and myself in this new role that I have, you know, you might think of places that you want to be, but it is so important to be in the moment. So thank you for that. All right. Next up, Felicia.
I love that hashtag, Anita, God will call you to your calling and your blessing. And he's certainly done that for you. And I think one of the things that I love is that your husband has always been there by your side and elevating you. And I see that he's on this call tonight. So shout out to Theo Howard. One of the things that I'd like to say is that I like this quote by Ronald Osborne. And I talked about being a lifelong learner, and there are several head coaches who are on this call. Like I called out Toyel, but I saw Rika and I saw G, continuous learners. I love the fact that y'all are hungry. That's why you continue to grow, and that's why your programs continue to go. Love to see that, ladies. But there's this quote by Ronald Osborne. It says, unless you try to do something beyond what you've already mastered, you will never grow. I think the idea of being able to be where your feet are with your eyes forward, you know, you think about the drills we do and the coaches are always telling you to keep your feet moving, but to keep your head up. That means keep your head on the swivel and keep your head up. I think it's like walking a tightrope. You got to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone and you got to find your voice. And how do you do that? I think that you have to read as much as you eat. There's so much information out there that's free. And I don't think we always take advantage of it. I'd like to give a shout out right now to one of our Step Up logistics team members. Her name is Aisha Foy, and she's a member of Rising Coaches. Aisha wrote a book. So I'm saying read as much as you eat. It's called Success is My Major. Aisha hosts these free master classes, and it's about learning strategies to discover your purpose, gain a deeper understanding of who you are, breaking through your fear, developing a foundation for your future legacy. It's about personal development. And if you don't invest in you, who will? We host this professional development symposium, a Step Up, every May. You know what coaches will have the nerves enough to tell me? That the school won't pay for them to come. The school isn't responsible for your future. You are. And so if you won't invest in you, how do you expect someone else to? The other thing I'd like to say is I would break the year into 4 quarters, because I think you have to put it in bite-sized chunks. I would figure out what part of the game I wanted to master. Everybody's known for something. If I was to ask 5 people, what are you known for? What would they say? And would they be consistent in whatever it is that they're saying? If they give me 5 different responses, then you are a master of nothing, a master of none. But if they continue to tell me the same thing over and over, she's a defensive wizard. She is the absolute best with analytics. She is one of the best recruiters in the nation. She is, I need to hear something and I need to hear it consistently. I'd like for you to identify 4 people in whatever area it is that you think you're the best in. So example for recruiting, I think Jolette Law is probably the best recruiter in the nation. Why would I say that? Because she's recruited more #1 recruiting classes than anybody else in the nation. And she's done it at 3 different schools. She's at the University of South Carolina right now. She did it at Tennessee. She did it at Rutgers. I would figure out what's the secret sauce that she's using. But there are other really great recruiters out there as well. Satia Messer, who's now at Central Florida, was one of the best. She's now a head coach. I think that Toyelle, when she was at Baylor and at Michigan, did a hell of a job at recruiting. I would add her to that list. And what I would do is I would create my own masterclass each quarter so that you don't worry the hell out of people. I would not call them every month. I would call, if I had 4 months is like a quarter. 1 month I would call Jolette, 1 month I would call Satia, 1 month I would call Toelle, and the other month I would call, let's say Carol Owens. And I would be intentional about having maybe 3 to 4 questions I would ask each of them. I would ask them the same question so that I could make sure that I'm not missing anything, and that I would just kind of layer on layer on layer of knowledge and information. I think that this way, now what I've also done is I've expanded my network so that these people know that I'm becoming a master. And when anybody asks them, do you know anyone who blank? My name will be at the top of their list. But I've also been gaining gems and nuggets along the way. I don't think you have to know it all, but you should figure out who has access to information that you want, and you should go get it. The other thing I would say is that with these people that you reach out to, don't take more than 30 minutes of their time or you're stealing from them. They probably have about 30 minutes that they can give, and then let them move on to whatever is next for them. I think that in order to prepare yourself where you are, I think it becomes really important to be intentional, write it down, have a plan, check it off. And I also think that you should not be one of the best kept secrets in the business. Our opportunity might not find you.
Can I chime on that real quick to that last point you just said? I think also branding yourself is huge. You talk about, eating or reading more than you eat. I think with social media, you can brand yourself for free. You don't need anything. You can brand yourself. And so I think that's crucial in what you post and what you put out, videos, graphics, whatever. I think one thing that helped me along the way was branding and marketing myself.
Wow.
It doesn't hurt to have a pretty face either, Anita.
I am so glad we are recording this. Golly, I mean, you guys are just making me feel like, wow, oh, wow, wow. It's so wonderful to be reminded of all of this information, because we've all heard it, especially most of us have dealt in the realm of sport or participated in sport. So we've heard a lot of this, but it is just so awesome to hear it again. And thank you for those wonderful answers. Okay, so the next question is going to be directed to Anita and Ed. People talk about fit and how important it is to work with great people. What would you say are, what would you say are some of the things that people should look for when evaluating jobs? With so few opportunities available, do you think it's realistic and advisable to pass on situations and opportunities if everything isn't completely aligned? Or how would you approach that?
Anita, please.
Yes, okay, Anita, that's fine. I'm sorry, from moving forward, I will say Ed, you can go first.
Yeah, I don't know why y'all keep making me go first, but that's fine.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Ed, go first.
I will do that. I will do that, of course. You use the key word, I think, Kim, in terms of, being aligned, and the alignment to me is extremely essential, and I think all of you coaches out there are competitive, are successful, are confident. I think you all believe in your own skill sets, and you believe you can overcome any adversity, any limitations, whether that be resources, budget, charter planes, facilities, whatever your disadvantages are. And I love that. And I'm guilty of the same thing as well, even as an administrator. And I think, we all believe and know we could overcome some challenges and some hurdles and be the change agents that we talked about being earlier. But I think when you're looking at a job and a place, especially when you have a good job currently, I think you want to be careful. I think you really want to do your homework on the alignment of an institution. And that's, yes, up to the president, of course, but even higher in terms of what their board of trustees looks like, kind of what their alumni, what their donor base, what their community. Because what's often forgotten about college athletics is truly the business of what higher education is. And that's obviously tuition based, and that's enrollment. And that's obviously, for state schools, that could be government funding, and understanding how that all properly aligns, because they don't all need to love athletics. I often tell us coaches, right? Your president doesn't often need to love athletics, or the leadership needs to, but they need to truly understand it, respect it, and see how it does truly fit and align with their vision, their strategic plan. And that benefits enrollment, that benefits academic profile, that benefits fundraising, community engagement, that benefits the school spirit, school pride, you name it. I look at it kind of as like a 360 wheel, with athletics being in the middle, truly acting as that front porch that everybody likes to say, in terms of marketing and branding of an institution. And I think it's important you feel that passion, feel that love, and see an actual plan and direction. It's okay if it's not fully there. It could be a 5-year, 10-year, but you need to really feel that is aligned up, where your women's basketball program, your women's sport is truly appreciated, respected, and committed to. And then I think that then you go full steam at that opportunity. Now, is it always that easy? Definitely not. And it's impactful that you can make change. Yes, I have a new president. I'm excited to say she started on July 1st. Our first, not only female president, but lay president, 181 years, a Jesuit priest at Fordham University. And her energy, enthusiasm, excites me every day. I couldn't be more happier and pumped to go to work, because she's truly a change agent. And I feel like I'm in the same boat. But who you align with in your leadership is so important. And I think that those pieces are truly essential. And the question of where do they want to go? Because, right, it doesn't matter. They don't all have to win a national championship or a Final Four. Where do they want to take your program? Where do they see the benefits of it? And you aligning accordingly, because you could tweak your plan, right? You could adjust your plan to ensure it benefits the institution. But does that align well with your values, your vision? So getting some intel, speaking to folks, I think as much as possible is essential. And you're going to impact changes, no doubt about that. But you want to make sure you're working with individuals that want to impact the same change.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Anita?
that was super deep. When I hear that question about fit, you're going to have challenges in every single environment, in every single profession, in every single job, right? And so for me, the one thing, my non-negotiable is I'm never going to take a job for money. So any coaches on here, I know you want to get paid, but you're in it for the wrong reason. Like Ed said earlier, no matter how much you make, we put in so much work as coaches, you're never going to make enough, right? So never be in this profession for money. And so now it leads you to, what are your non-negotiables? And I think you have to know that for yourself. And then you have to have the conversation with your potential employer. Like, if I was a single parent when I first started, right? And I might have worked for someone who didn't want kids around, right? You need to know that. Is that a non-negotiable? Do you want to be in a family environment? Are you somewhere where it's only business, no personal? Those are some of the things that you need to know. And so you have to do your homework about not just the job, but the university, your potential head coach, maybe the AD, what's the direction that the athletics department is going in. So it's not just about women's basketball. You might not like the direction that the athletic department is going in. So you have to do your research. And you just have to be okay with change, because along my journey, I've learned some things that I didn't want to do as a head coach, right? And so every job is not going to be perfect. But the one thing that I always, hope my assistants will learn from me is that, every place is not perfect, but what are you learning from it? What are you absorbing from it? What are you taking to be great in that spot, and then maybe to your next spot? And so it's all about, it is fit and feel for me. God, family, job, in that order. God, family, job, in that order. Y'all just saw my baby girl. She just got married, kissed me on the cheek. I'm on a Zoom, and she was like, she didn't want to interrupt me, but she don't come home often. So she's here, she kissed me on the cheek. And so you got to be okay with living life, because this is a job. We do coach a game, and life, to me anyway, is more important. So you have to do your homework to know who you're going in to work for, and are they all business, or do they have a little bit of both? And so it's doing your homework, asking the questions, and then realizing what your non-negotiables are. Not questioning your morals or values, but understanding that everything is not going to be perfect to your liking, but what can you learn and absorb from that potential job?
Thank you for that.
Kim, if I could just add,
Yes.
if I could just add quickly to Anita's point, I thought a really, really good one is that I interview a lot of former head coaches who are maybe in between jobs, and sometimes I often get like, they'll tell me I shouldn't have left. I shouldn't have left my institution and made a bad decision. And they thought it was a higher level, it was more money, it was a bigger facility, and it just was not the right fit. And I know it's easy for, active head coaches kind of look at it that way, but even assistant coaches, I know you want to be a head coach so bad, but making sure it's the right fit for you, because that wrong decision is that much more harder now to turn around and recover from, unfortunately.
Wow, that is so very true. Sometimes, it brings me to the old saying that the grass always looks greener on the other side. And when you don't do your research, sometimes you end up over there and you just happen to see the green patch, but the rest of it is barren and dry. So yeah, and I think too, also it is super important to be in a place where you can be your authentic self. So that I think that is so important. But we're going to move it along because we really want to open it up for questions from the listeners. So this question is going to go to Felicia and to Gigi. What is your best advice, or the best advice that you can give in terms of a winning interview? Let's go, Felicia.
Okay, so I would say that if given an opportunity to have an interview, you got to be your own best champion and advocate. That is not the time to be modest. Your resume and body of work got you to the table, but you have to be prepared to put your best self forward. And what I mean by that is you want to come across as being prepared and interested in the job. You need to do your homework, find out what the mission statement is of the university. Don't get on the phone, a Zoom, or go to a campus and you have no idea what the school's mission statement is. You should be able to articulate how you fit into that school's mission. I think it's also really important to demonstrate that you're strategic. That means have a vision, be able to clearly state what your philosophy is and what your goals are, and then always talk about how you can help to impact the program. At the end of the day, people get hired to get results. I think it's great you can graduate kids. I know a lot of coaches who graduated kids and got fired because they could not win. And so when you go to that campus, you better have a plan in place that is clearly understood, that demonstrates from A to Z how you plan on winning. And I think that if you can be your best champion and advocate, I think that you'll do right by yourself. This is the one time where you are granted permission to toot your own horn. And I don't ever toot mine softly. I try to blow your eardrum out like my high school band did back in the day, and all HBCU bands do.
No. Yes. Thank you so much. Does anyone else want to chime in on that one? Because that is super important. And we have, as a matter of fact, the DEI Alliance, we have an initiative called Next Up. And so that is focused on helping coaches in that process, in the interviewing process. We give each coach a school and they have to research that coach, and then they sit before a panel and are interviewed for that school. So that's so true. And we thank you for all of that information. So if anyone else wants to chime in, please. Ed?
Sure. I would just, I would add, just to make sure that you are speaking to outside the box individuals in terms of a job, trying to get as much information, whether that be parents, whether that be obviously high school coaches. I even speak to, club coaches, AAU coaches when I'm doing a search, because as you talked about, Kim, being authentic and genuine, I really want to know the individual on a daily basis, how they're going about getting a kid, how they react when they don't get a kid, how they're treating people when they don't get what they want. Like I know everybody's coming to the interview dressed to the nine and is going to be so nice and wonderful in that process. I want to try to get as much genuine, authentic information as possible. So and people say you're crazy talking to high school coaches or AAU coaches, but they're going to tell it how it is in terms of their experience. And I just really want to try to get as much of that raw and genuine information as possible, because I just find that to be so valuable. So as I think Anita said, I think I said early on, don't burn any bridges and treat people the way you want to be treated, and love what you do, because that's the true perception and reputation you have out there.
Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you
and
for that. Gigi. Oh, I'm sorry. Who was that?
Gigi, you have Gigi?
Gigi? Yes.
To just backpack off of that, I think one of the most important things that I always tell my candidates from just a recruiting standpoint, not every job that you're going to interview for is going to be the right fit. Sometimes you apply for a job that you think you really, really want, and you're so excited for the opportunity. And then, after you go to the interview, it doesn't end up being the right fit and you're super disappointed. So I think it's important before you go in to just remember, not every position you're going to apply for, you're going to get, and that is okay. And after you kind of recognize that, it's really important to just go in and be 100% authentic and true to who you are as a person. Obviously, always put your best foot forward. And, you got to the interview stage because of your credentials. Your credentials already are on your resume, and that's what got you to that interview level. So now is really the time to show them why you should be at their program or what you can add to the organization. And a lot of times that does come from those, genuine conversations, being authentic and, highlighting things that aren't necessarily on your resume. I always tell people if they have specific projects that they worked on or initiatives that they worked on alone or headed up on their own, to talk about those. And of course, always just being prepared. I can't tell you how many times, just me screening a candidate and, I send them a job description and everything about a position that I'm recruiting on. They have the JD, they have the name of the organization, and they don't do the research. And I always make sure when I'm interviewing someone or screening them, I ask questions. I'm like, so what do you think of the program? What do you know about the program? Who do you know from the program? Are you familiar with any names? And it really does show the candidates that want the position. They have done their research. They have, gone ahead. They've taken the extra initiative, extra step to learn more information. And so those candidates usually stick out because they're aware of what the program has to offer, and they're aware of what they can bring to the program. And so it makes a difference versus a candidate that comes in and, doesn't really know what's going on. And it is nerve-wracking getting on an interview. I can say I get nervous a lot, but if I don't prep, then I'm obviously going to be more nervous. So that's going to show. But even if I am nervous and I'm prepared and I know my information, it'll still come off with confidence. And so that's really important to just remember to prep beforehand. If you need to take notes, that's important. So that's the advice I would offer.
Thank you. Everyone's good on that? Everyone feels they want to jump in? All right, so we're going to move on to the final question, because again, we want to open up the floor. Hey, Adam, do we have any questions in the chat? Just curious.
Not yet. We've got a shy group. So
What?
please type your
Oh my
questions
gosh.
type your questions into the chat. We'll get to you guys.
I just want to reiterate, this is an opportunity to ask people who are making decisions, who are helping people land jobs and positions. So if you have any questions, this is a great opportunity to ask those questions. So please ask questions. All right. So the last question is for Anita and Ed. Ed, I know it feels like we're picking on you, huh? All right. But anyway, okay. So NIL and transfers have significantly impacted the profession. So what can coaches or administrators do to give themselves an advantage in these areas in their current programs? Anita, you have to go first this time.
Okay, I'll go first. I was just holding my breath. I like to talk now. I can talk the whole time, Ed, if you don't want to. But so it's funny, we just talked about this in our all department staff meeting about the NIL. It's new, it's here, and it's real. And there's a lot of unknowns still with it. And so I think one of the things that what Georgia Southern is doing really well is actually hiring somebody just for that NIL initiative that's going on to help our student athletes. And so, but beforehand, you just got to dive in and educate yourself on what's going on and how you can embrace this change. I know, we're a little older, some of the older people on the call, we's like, well, they didn't pay us to play. They didn't pay us for our name, image, likeness. Change is here. You got to change it with the times or get left behind, right? So it's all about embracing it. And so especially if you're going on an interview and you did some research and you can bring something to the table for that program or that university that has something to do with NIL, it just makes you that much more marketable. But you definitely got to do your research. You got to educate yourself on how you can kind of, especially like in women's basketball. I know we're a football school at Georgia Southern. And so of course there's a lot of NIL deals with football players, but women's basketball, like Felicia said, we have a lot of beautiful young ladies in our jerseys. And so as a head coach, we got to sit down and figure out, okay, how can we now help our young ladies in a permissible way now? Because you got to make sure that you're not doing anything that you're not supposed to, but you got to educate yourself on the new initiative because it is new. And so you still got to get out and learn. But if you know something and you can bring it to your head coach, it makes you that much more marketable.
And if you were interviewing for a position, a head coaching position, how would you speak about it in your interview? How would you talk about that? Those two things, the transfer situation and I mean, if, for example, an athletic director were to ask you, what do you feel about the current NIL situation and transfers, and how do you handle that?
Well,
how would you speak about that in the interview?
Oh, I like it. I love it actually, because they were kind of doing it anyway, but now it's legal to do, if that makes sense. And so it's all about getting out. One, we're big on community service, 2-time #1 in the nation for our community service. And so you're literally allowing your student athletes to kind of get out into the community, and now people are paying them to do that, so to speak. And so I can talk about how community service ties in with that NIL partnership and things with that, just for the athletics department, not just for our program. And then transfers have been a blessing for my team. I always liken our recruiting to a recipe. I'm not a big time cooker, but when we cook, I don't just use all salt because that'll be a nasty whatever you're eating. You got to have different ingredients to have a nice meal. And so we like some true freshmen, JUCOs, and then some transfers, because I want to have sustainable success. I don't want to just be good and then we graduate all our seniors. And so the transfer portal for me have been great. I believe it's some kids in there that are second chance kids that need a second opportunity. You're going to have your knuckleheads every now and then, but you got to know that going in. We recruit players that I might not be able to get. They might go to, Baylor, LSU, or whatever, but then they might not be happy. And so if I recruited them out of high school, I've already built that relationship. And so, Ed, I think you said, we never get mad at a student athlete that doesn't choose a Georgia Southern. We wish them well. And we say, well, if you're in the portal, we'll see you in a couple of years. And so it's all about the relationship piece. It's not getting salty. It's just being smart, because they are going into the portal for different reasons. And if you connect with them early on in high school, you'll have that connect when they're back in the portal.
Wow, that's I love how you look at that, how you said that. That's awesome. Ed.
Yes. So great answers there, Anita. So in terms of name, image, and likeness, I know it's got this negative connotation to it, and obviously this pay for play perception, and that is concerning, right? In terms of alumni and boosters and that situation, and that's something we continue to monitor. But I think it truly is, and controlling what we can control, which isn't a lot these days, right? Depending on how this evolves and it changes day by day. But I think Anita's attitude is a good one, because she talked a lot about education. And I think that education goes to the parents the same way, and the family members that you're recruiting of that student athlete and that young female, in terms of what you are presenting and selling in terms of your program. And then offering them that support of how to build their brand, how to help them with a social media profile. Anita talked about that as well. You could tell she's got her recruiting spiel down for NIL, because she's hitting all the hot buttons of building a brand and helping access. We all want our student athletes to have deals and make as much money as they'd like to. We all support that and those opportunities. And that's not just, the deals that we read about in the trades every day. But, our student athletes now can get paid to do training and development, have camps and clinics and do training. I have a student athlete that is a tennis player. She's a professional tattoo artist. She's able to give out tattoos and receive income for that. I have someone that plays in a band. They could play weddings and gigs on the weekend and make money. Those are things the NCAA restricted not long ago. So there is a beauty to NIL that way in terms of simplicity. And then I really try to think it's important we connect NIL to career and life after sport, right? So Kim, even for you, right, when sport, that basketball stopped dribbling at some point, how are we preparing our student athletes and how are we linking NIL to that opportunity, building a brand, getting them experience, connecting them with alumni, even those that are giving them whether it be internship, shadowing, or an NIL deal, that network for life after sport, no matter how good we are, it's ending at some point. So I think we're losing sight of the value of NIL for that brand building for the student athlete life after. So I think parents want to hear that. I think recruits want to hear that. And I think Anita really did a great job. The core values. So even if it's service, staying to our core values of who we are and why it still aligns with who we are. Not losing sight of that. And I think her transfer portal answer is perfect because we can't why students are making decisions. We know there's a million different reasons why that may be. And when they're not happy, they're going to leave and move. How are we always going to be there to be probably their landing spot? And whether we agree with it or not, that's times. And here's the other thing, coaches, you're all allowed to leave a job whenever you want. So we also can't get upset for the student athlete leaving when they want. And that's unfortunately the world we're living in. So Anita said it, deal with it and move on with it. And I think that's the right attitude and the right approach. But how do we truly look at it a lot more than just dollars and cents? How do we connect it to all the principal facts of not the 4 years of college, but the 40 years afterwards?
Wow, that's a powerful answer. Thank you. Does anyone else want to chime in on that? We have about 3 minutes and no one else asked any questions. I'm looking at the chat now. No one else.
We do have a question here.
We do have a question, Kim.
We do?
Yeah, and please, when you ask us, please introduce yourself. Let us know who you are. For the first one, Matt Elkin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Elkin. I'm Director of Operations at Yale University men's basketball team. My question was for really anybody, but I guess because this is kind of a rising coaches deal and because I'm in a early stage of my career, I'm just curious, like other than working up the chain as far as doing my job to the ability where my assistant coaches can notice that I'm in a position to get moved up or the head coach can realize I'm in a position to get moved up. Like, how do I jump to, let's say, get on the radar of an athletic director, for example? What in my current position, what are some things that I can be doing outside of just doing my job really well that can help me get on the radar very early to where it's 10 years down the line? Someone like you, Ed, might remember, oh, Matt was a great director of operations for our men's basketball program. So really open to anybody that has any insight on that.
Well, I'll say one, you're doing a phenomenal job just by branding and marketing yourself tonight, right? So you stepped out and you were the first question of the night. I think all of us will kind of remember that because the one thing on an interview, you should always have questions, people. So, but yeah, I think it's having genuine networking conversations. And so if you're a great, my ops person, I think is on the call, Michelle McLeod, and I don't know what I would do without her. And so she's not just the business side, like she can have conversations in staff meetings with us, like I think Felicia said, step outside yourself, break it up in quarters. Like, of course, you're going to do the operation stuff, but can you bring something to the table that your head coach might like? So now your head coach is going to say your name in a room that you don't even know. And so allow your work to speak for itself so that people like myself or whoever, they're going to talk about you in head coaches meetings or assistant coaches clinics or whatever. So your name is now being bounced around when people are asking, hey, I'm looking for an assistant, you got a name? And then your name pops up in that conversation.
Awesome.
I would just say, Matt, I think you're, first of all, you're working for, obviously a strong and tremendous leader. That's not only a successful basketball coach, but someone that's going to mentor and develop you. And obviously you're doing that with James Jones there at Yale. And I think you want to work for somebody, and I know there's a few coaches on here, and I think Anita would testify in agreement, is even if there is a log jam in front of you and you're not able to get on the recruiting trail or become one of those assistants and what you want, I think, someone like James has been doing this at the highest level, the most successful level, a long period of time. I know he's going to tell someone that does have an opening, hey, my Dobo is stuck, unfortunately. I don't want to lose him. And believe me, he does not want to lose you, but he wants to see what's best for you. And if there's an assistant job that's open somewhere else, he'd recommend you to a colleague or a friend or his networking chain. And I think I see that a lot out there, and obviously give you more experience. And hopefully when he does have an opening for an assistant coach, then you'll come back to him. And I think that's the coaching trees out there. So I think working for individuals like that are essential, that are going to develop you, make you better, but also they know you want a job, because they wouldn't want you to work for them if you were just happy being in the position you are and not aspiring to do more. So, and I think that's, not besides, of course, the patience in that is obviously working and surrounding yourself with the right people, which obviously you're doing that at Yale.
Hey, Kim, I'd like to jump in on that. Matt, I think that's a great question, but I'd like to say this: before you get on the radar of an AD, get on the radar of a few head coaches that are not named James Jones or his brother over there at BU. I would say there's a guy who attended one of our symposiums, and I thought this was a brilliant move. He met a ton of coaches. He made his list, and that before the summer was over, he went on a tour. He visited like the University of Tennessee when Rob Lanier was there. He went to like SMU. He probably chose 3 schools, and he got in his car and he drove to those 3 schools. He spent like a day or a day and a half with each coach. When a job came open on staff at the University of Tennessee, Rob Lanier thought about him because he was on his hustle and he was hungry. In College Station now, I remember reading an article that Buzz Williams, before he blew up and became Buzz Williams, they said he got in a pickup truck and he drove in the summertime when nobody knew his name. And he would just go and visit different campuses. Of course, he would set up a meeting and let them know before he was coming. But I think that people are looking for people who are not afraid to chase their dreams. And I think that if you're waiting for the opportunity to come to you, you might miss out, even though you're one of the best at what you do. I think I realized that being the best isn't good enough anymore if nobody knows. So you gotta be willing to get out there. And a lot of times I think we go for the head honcho, but it's not the head person that I need. It's all of the folks who are connected to him or her, because they're gonna be the ones telling my story. That other person may not ever know me unless I have some people going before me as allies and advocates and champions, making sure that my story is being told based on what my hustle and experience has been.
And wow.
Boom.
Let me add something, and I'll be remiss if that's old school, that's hustle. That's how it was back in my day. And no, that's how we do it. And that'll make you stand out, Matt, today, because a lot of people are not doing that today no more. That's not fashionable. And that will separate you, what we call a differentiator. But also I would add, work the administrators that are not the ADs of where you're at now. Because ultimately they're going to become athletic directors. They're going to become leaders as well. So work those administrators in-house internally. So you can also be on their radar, and they also have friends. They're connected as well. So I'd be remiss if I didn't add that.
And just to finish that off, I think the common thread here has been relationships are everything. How you conduct yourself, how you carry yourself, how you treat a person. Just like Anita said, well, I may not have gotten that kid because they went on to LSU or went somewhere else. But if they're not happy and that relationship was strong and it was solid, they're going to look at me. And who knows, I may be in a different place by that time as well. So like you guys all, like someone said, people move. So relationships are everything, and genuine relationships, not just, oh, I want to get to know you just to hope, because people sense that. I think people sense when you're genuine and authentic in getting to know them and who they are. So I think just building those authentic, genuine relationships where it's give and take. It's not all about what you can get from that person, but just because sometimes I think coaches and people that are successful are lonely because everyone wants to be a part of them because they are so successful. But just having someone that's just there, just to listen, if only by osmosis that you get what you get from that person, I think sometimes that's just fine and you don't have to say a word. There was another question that I really want to touch on, and I think it's Toyel. Is that how I pronounce your name?
Yes, ma'am.
You asked a question about mental health, and I think that is such a hot point, a hot topic right now. I really want you to ask that question, and I'd love for you panelists to answer it.
So Toyel Wilson, SMU women's basketball. Basically, I just had a question about mental health and how that has played a role for us coaches and how we deal with players now, taking into consideration they have to deal with their everyday life and social media and all the things that I didn't have to deal with when I was in college, and just any innovative ideas. I mean, for me, I'm actually doing a mental health day where it's basically, I don't ask the girls any questions. It just can't be the day of a game and the day before a game. But if they need a mental health day, I can't ask them anything. It's basically let me know an hour before practice, and it's a non-negotiable. I don't ask them anything. They just don't come to practice where they just need a day to mentally. So I learned that from the Final Four D2 or D3 coach. And I said, let me spin it my own way, obviously at being in D1. And so I didn't know if anybody else, how do they navigate that? We talk about it. We have people come in and talk to our players, our doctors once a week, just to openly talk as a group. So didn't know if anybody had any ideas.
We actually have a sports site that she comes to the practices. She's on the bench. And it's something that, it was offered at the university. And, I just said, hey, what do you think about doing that? And she's been a joy. We have Wellness Wednesdays with our team where she does certain sessions. It might be, before a big game, testing jitters, whatever we think the ladies might need. But it's going to sound kind of sad to you. They're kids and they really just want to have fun. So sometimes we just do that. So we might just play volleyball. Or it's funny, in our staff meeting the other day, one of my coaches said, because they didn't see the movie White Man Can't Jump, they said movie night. So, I think sometimes I want them to miss the game of basketball a little bit. And so whether we shorten our practices a little bit to keep them engaged, it's let them have fun drills, something maybe that has nothing to do with basketball. We play kickball. I think those for me have been a real help. And then also having that sports psych doc kind of just being around the team, because she's literally there for, a player who might step out or whatever, going through something. She's right there. And I think every school has, if it's not just an athletic, you have a department on campus that, they'll probably be open to just coming and doing that with your team. I would reach out to them.
That is awesome.
And
yes,
I would like to add something real quick. Yeah, I attended a panel earlier and they were talking about mental health and these students. And one of the biggest things that we discussed was the fact that, without student athletes, there is no coach. Without student athletes, there are no athletic directors, there's no administrative staff. So it's important, in terms of mental health, just understanding that these programs exist because of these kids and they're very young still and impressionable. So sometimes, like Anita said, you just need to have fun with them. And I've seen so many different athletic directors or coaches taking TikToks or, funny videos on Instagram with the students. And I think, as, silly as it may be in the moment, sometimes that's just what they need to get out of a bad mood or out of a bad funk from a long day. There's a lot of pressure on them. So I think things like that also are great just to relate to them. Social media is just so different for us than it is for them, but trying to relate to what they're experiencing every day and understanding, the things that they like to do and participating in those activities sometimes can definitely make a huge difference.
That is so true. And thank you for that. I kind of think of us as adults. Heck, we have problems processing issues and we have bad days. And so when we think about, our student athletes, wow, you might have a freshman come in and it's no longer fun because this is serious now. You've bumped up to the collegiate level. And that's really hard because a kid may not have come from programs that they had to be pushed and all of that. So getting, just getting through to that. And how do you communicate to a kid to let them know that, okay, I'm upset with you, but it's not a personal thing. I'm not personally upset with you. And just like teaching them the difference between I'm pushing you because I see more in you versus I'm really mad at you and you're, and so I'm attacking you. I think that is really huge. And I think every program should have like some type of sports psychiatrist or psychologist on the team for kids to talk about. I mean, kids go into shooting slumps or kids aren't playing well, and how do they get out of that? And especially when kids have associated their self-esteem with being successful. I think it's a lot for these kids that they have to deal with. And like we all said, with social media and everything as well. Well, Daryl, do you want to step in, and are we going to close it up, or has everyone?
We have another question. I think Eric Garcia, is it? Am I saying your name correct?
Not really. It's Gracia.
Garcia. Okay. Garcia.
Yeah.
You want to ask your question?
Yeah, I could get it out. I've been coughing up over here. So I'm Eric Gracia. I'm the director of video and analytics at Penn State with women's basketball. And I'm also one of the board members with the Latino Association of Basketball Coaches. And I always have people reaching out to me saying, what can I do? Asking about my story and how they're trying to get a foot in or whatever. My question is, like, what are some things that we can do when people ask those questions? Because I've worked closely with Adam before on a couple other things, but sometimes I kind of feel helpless because my path or my story might be singular to me. And so my question is, like, we have these, diversity, equity, and inclusion alliances and organizations and all that. What are some things that we could do to help the people that are trying to get in, whether through educating them or, presenting them with opportunities or whatever the case is?
I think joining organizations like this, and I think you find out so much information when you join organizations like Rising Coaches. You think there are over how many memberships, how many members are there now? Over 1,300?
Yeah, about
1,500.
About 1,500. And then there are so many other organizations that are a part of this. So like for me, again, it's about building relationships and getting yourself out there, being a part of the know, being in the know.
Eric, I would just like to say, don't wait for anyone else to tell your story. I think there's so many different communication platforms. Someone mentioned earlier being able to take advantage of social media. Why can't you all have a membership spotlight every single month? Why can't you have your own newsletter that you all are putting out there? And then why can't you do your own podcast and help to tell your stories? And I think that there are a lot of people who want to hear what you have to say. I think it's Latin American Awareness Month. I think why not get the WBCA to sponsor or spotlight somebody on their website every week? And they don't all have to be coaches, but to figure out different segments of their population and to take advantage of it. I tell you who's not shy about taking advantage of the 28 days we get, Black History Month. We run that thing to the max. And I think that you all should take a page out of our book and don't be shy to talk about who you are and to celebrate who you are. Right now, I think that you all are kind of like the hot spice. Don't miss out on that moment. Mr. Gracia.
Gracia. Thank you, Gracia. Gosh, I just lost I just wanted to say happy Indigenous Day also today. It's yeah.
And we also
we had a big call.
We are in the Spanish Latino Heritage Month.
Yeah, but and then Native American, yeah, it's Indigenous Day too as well.
So it goes back to my point, Eric, which I had an opportunity of meeting with you recently. Gracia. You got to market and brand yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, Carol Owens, CO, actually, when I was an unknown, she paid for me to go to Felicia Hall, step up as a young assistant. And so you may know someone that you want to kind of pay it forward to allow them to be, to go to a step up or something like that. And so that's how you can help one another kind of join and be in the know.
Hey, Kim, I got to shout out a young lady on this call now. Her name is Ash Samuels. She has a company called Crash Creative.
Yes.
And I found out about Ash through Pokey Chapman, who's a client of mine. And when I tell you, Eric, she's the real deal. Google Ashley Samuels, Crash Creative. She has a branding side of her business, and I think that she can absolutely help you.
Did you see?
Like Walmart, she's cost effective.
And did you see, did she show you that deck that she had where she did a Jordan 1 shoe for every WNBA team? Girl, I took it to Claire Hamill, who's she's the longest standing female at Nike, 42 years here. And she's the one that started the Nike Win program, Women in Nike, where they felt that hiring disparities between WNBA players of color versus our counterparts, we didn't have the same opportunity. So they started this program, and so they brought us in. So we're in the 4th group being here. They've hired 57 women of color, majority of color, probably maybe 5 or 6 are non-color. So it is a program, and it is just so incredibly awesome what she's doing. I had to take it to her. She's like, oh my, because she's such a huge WNBA fan. So yes, Ash and I go back. So hey, Ash, it's so good.
Yeah, Kim, I think it's really important for us as women. I think that y'all said that this was a women's empowerment Zoom, right? I think it's really important that as women, we do a much better job of promoting each other and elevating each other and sending business our way. We talk about the good old boys and how effective it is. How about them good old girls? And I think Anita said, who runs the world? Girls. If we run it, then we need to start running into each other more often. And we need to start being intentional about sharing information about other people who are trying to advance and promote their business. There's no shame in that game. I call it elevation. That's my church's name. Our mission statement is to see what God can do through you. And I think that that's why I really love the name Adam, Rising Coaches, because we're all trying to elevate each other. And Ed, I'm so impressed with you and just the time that you've taken out tonight. I think it just demonstrates not only are you an athletic director, but I heard you talk about what you do in business. And this is what mentorship looks like. So I'm really proud to be a part of this. I got to drive in the dark right now to a campsite I've never been to before. So I'm going to have to go so that I can be safe and be here another time if y'all ask me to talk. So good night. And thank you all so much for having me.
We appreciate you so much. Thank you. Get to where you need to be safer.
Oh, Anita and Gigi, it was a pleasure being a part of this. I would be remiss if I did not shout you out. And Kim, I love you for the ages. Thank you guys. Good night.
Night, Felicia.
I agree. Gigi, you've been in and out with us, but you've been dropping gems. I appreciate it. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Kim. I think this has been great. I definitely got to shout out my staff on here. I have the best staff in the world. And if you think I'm lying, just try me. But and my husband too. So
yeah, I was going to say, you got to shout him out.
You got to surround yourself with good people. And so I got a former WNBA champion on my staff. I got 2 of the best recruiters in the nation. I know Felicia talked about all the great women recruiters. I have 2 great male recruiters, Deontay McChester and Chris Godfrey. And then my Dobo is just like the best person. And then of course, my husband, he puts up with me. And so the one thing that I talk about is making sure you have good people around you, because this job will come and go. If something happens, we get fired, or something happens, basketball will keep going on. And then also, you see my sister on here, y'all. Like, I have great supporters. Find yourself people that ride or die for you, because that's our mental health potion, is making sure you have people that kind of uplift you all around you.
Who's your WNBA player? Who's on your staff?
Elaine Powell, 3-time WNBA world champion.
Wow. Wow. What's up, Elaine?
She put the world in it.
I put the world in it because I was saying national or universe. She's just a champion, you know.
Appreciate it.
Hey.
How are you, Kim?
I'm good. And yourself?
Good.
Keep making a difference in these young people's lives. Keep doing it.
Will do. Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to join Rising Coaches, you have the information in the chat. We're offering 50% off now. You use the code EMPOWER to join us as well. We have a lot of professional development, a lot of resources that's available to you being part of this. And as you can see, being a member of Rising Coaches come with so many benefits, such as this, the Women Empowerment Series as well.
And can you let them know more, or Adam or Daryl, can you talk about more of the opportunities that, being a member provides? Like, do you have annual events? Like, is there something always for Final Four? Like, let me know why would I want to invest my money, apart from the knowledge that I could potentially gain, and things like that. But what else?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks everybody and all the panelists and Kim for being here. This has been amazing. Yeah, would love for you guys, if you guys are inclined to check out Rising Coaches. The three things that we really try to hit on and help coaches with are their relationships, their development, and then job opportunities. And so we do a lot to try to connect our members with each other. We have various programs that connects members, and we're all about being genuine, and we don't like the term networking because there's the connotation of it being fake, but we do try to connect coaches with each other and help you gain some new friends in the industry, which, as you guys all know, is currency in the coaching profession. We have 13 plus years worth of content like this that we've filmed and recorded at live events and Zooms. And as a member, you have access to all of it. So you can really sit there and spend hours and hours and hours soaking all this stuff up and taking notes and learning constantly. And everything from things like this to X's and O's. We really have a really diverse library of content that we built up. And then finally, we do get a lot of, coaches and programs that reach out to us and want recommendations. They want to know who they should hire for an assistant coaching position, or who they should hire for a director of operations position or a GA, and all of that stuff we put directly on our member site. So if you're a member, you get a heads up on a lot of job leads that are actual leads. I know a lot of times when you see them on, various websites and job boards, by the time it's posted, it's filled. Everything that we post is, a coach directly reaching out looking for help. So they're all live leads, and we've been blessed to help a lot of coaches get jobs and move on in their profession. So that's the quick and dirty version of it. All the info is on risingcoaches.com. And again, 50% off with the coupon code EMPOWER till the end of the month.
And make sure you know about our coaches clinics that we do every summer. We have probably 2 every summer in major cities as well. We also have our initiatives with Next Up initiatives and Women Empowerment Series. And of course, equality and inclusion in college basketball in February, which we have over close to 200 Division I women program participated last year. So if you're a college coach on this call, you'll be getting that information from us if you haven't received it already. And we would like for you to participate as well in that initiative.
And just one more thing to add, we do this series, the Women's Empowerment Series, live at the Women's Final Four. So please join us in person next year in Dallas, maybe? Yeah, Dallas.
Dallas, that's correct.
We'll be there live in the flesh, just like this. We'll have 2 speaker panels, and looking forward to seeing you guys there. And with all our events, there's always free food and alcohol, so that helps too.
Well, we want to say thank you so much to everyone. Thank you to our panel, first and foremost. The knowledge that you've given us all has been amazing, and it's been so helpful. This is exactly the reason we wanted to start this series, this empowerment series, because we wanted people to leave with some information that can make a difference in their careers. And just, even if you're content with where you are, it's still, sometimes it's so good to be reminded of things that we know, but we may not have remembered. And we just, that little nudge to help us to be better at what it is that we do and be in the moment, like so many of the panelists said, to be in the moment and to be where you are and to try to make the best of where you are. So thank you again for coming out, panelists. We truly are grateful. And we thank all of the listeners who also tuned in with us. Thank you so very much. So you will hear from us, and we will keep you on point with what we are doing. And if you have any suggestions, please feel free to reach out, because this is about improving you, and we want to give and do and have programs that you want and desire. So please, if you have any suggestions of something you feel is needed, please reach out to us as well.
And remember,